Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, 50-year legacy book. A.G. and John, obviously key members of the community, key members of the family legacy. John, why don't you take it, introduce the two of you guys, and then we'll go back and forth on the building of the brand and the family legacy.
Sure, no problem. So my name is John Spanos, and I'm the president of football operations for the Los Angeles Chargers. And my brother, A.G. Spanos, is the president of business operations for the Los Angeles Chargers. And basically what that means is sort of any department within the organization that has to do with the football side, with the team, that sort of touches the on-field product, we consider in the football operation. So coaching and player personnel, salary cap accounting and finance, security, player engagement, equipment, video, those types of departments would fall under football. And then the rest of it, my brother can give you more details, but our ticketing and corporate
everything off the field,
marketing, everything right. Sort of off the field, my brother heads up.
So from that perspective, and again, the excitement is to trace industry leaders over the last 50 years, and this is a brand that is compelling over the last 50 years. Alex Spanos, AFL, early 60s, 1960, Dean carrying on the tradition. The whole mantra from our perspective is nothing given to anybody and everything is earned. Both of you guys talk a little bit about building the family business into a cohesive, comprehensive brand.
Well, we both grew up with the team. So we both grew up in San Diego. We spent our summers working for the team in various positions as ball boys, as staff assistants, really got to learn the organization from the ground up. And, I think that was an important part of the process. We both have big passions for football, played it in high school. I played 1 year in college. So it just comes, naturally for us that there's a connection between our family business, what we both have a internal drive for, and it's been a great ride.
Yeah, and I think, this is John here now, I think a lot of our culture here and the family environment that we're able to create and the values that have been passed down from generation have been created and started first and foremost with our grandfather, Alex Spanos. And I really think they start with his story. He lived the American dream. He grew up with practically nothing, very humble beginnings, and through really hard work and sheer determination was able to build not just a very successful company on the construction side, but obviously a football team and a family. And he is someone who our whole lives has preached the importance of family. And he also preached the importance of hard work. And he preached it because he lived it. And so, for us growing up with that example, I think that was a huge aspect to the family values and environment that we have today.
I mean, one of the things I enjoy most about our jobs is we get a chance to further his legacy. He was such a passionate philanthropist, and the Chargers as an organization, that runs deep in our DNA. I really see the Chargers' North Star as two things. Obviously, competing for that championship and trying to bring a football Super Bowl championship to Los Angeles, and then also, secondly, making a positive impact in the community. And that's our guiding light.
The perspective of learning from your grandfather and father have a number of different historical evolutions. The old AFL, for those of our audiences and readers who don't remember, was fraught with some significant risk and tremendous vision because you had bought into a product and an asset, which was football, but you don't know where it stands relative to the NFL. Then later the decade and the merger, and the brand takes on an entirely different characteristic. And then, in my perspective, after looking at some of the history, your father specifically carried out the entrepreneurial vision that your grandfather helped create and implement as well. So it's two different roles and two different sets of expectation. Comment on that a little bit.
Yeah, so I guess first, just to make sure we're on the same page. So, my grandfather purchased the team in 1984, which was after the AFL merger with the NFL.
Right.
But obviously, he got into the Chargers with Baron Hilton. Yep. And I'm sorry, did you want to? Okay.
Yeah, no, in the Hilton. We've got by the way, we've got a historical kind of timeline that talks about the original Baron Hilton ownership and then the Spanos purchase. But I'm assuming there's continuity in all of that.
Yeah, exactly. And so he was very close with Baron Hilton. And then, okay, so back to your question. So our dad obviously went through a very similar, transition that we did in terms of learning from his dad and taking on the responsibility of working in the family business. Now, the one benefit that we were so grateful and fortunate to have is we grew up working from a very young age with the team, whereas our dad was already an adult when my grandfather purchased the team. So that would be one difference right there. But, a lot of the lessons we learned from our dad and a lot of the things he preached to us were things that our grandfather would preach to him. I mean, I can remember growing up as a kid and my dad saying, hey, look, from the time I was 15 years old, he'd say, you're not just going to, when school's done, you're not just going to play with your friends all summer. You're either going to get a job, summer school or get a job. I don't want you just playing with your friends all day. And it goes back to that value of hard work that I think our dad preached to us because he learned from his dad.
As you can tell from...
And one more note. Sorry,
Rick.
One more note. And that was the same values that he learned because he did the same thing on the construction side. And I remember hearing stories from my dad about when he was a kid in summers, he'd have to go work, labor and construction at some of our family construction projects. So that same family business, different part of the family business, but he lived it just like we did.
But identical philosophy. You got to learn from the ground up.
Exactly.
Yeah. So 30-plus years it's been in Spanos ownership, and the brand has evolved over a significant period of time, both in San Diego and in Los Angeles, and now it's in a state of transition with a very significant upside, and we'll talk about that as well. How do you sustain the brand through the ups and downs?
It's a good question. I think that, again, getting back to the principles that really our organization is founded on, playing great football and, making a positive impact in the community. Those are two things that we want our brand to be defined by. That and, of course, great colors and uniforms that the fans feel passionate about. And, we spent a lot of time, thinking about, talking about, having discussions around, the uniform, the look of the team, the colors. And, since our ownership, the uniforms changed several times. But it's kept that same, vibrancy, the iconic helmet, things that are really important to our fan base.
And I guess branding is a combination of tangible and intangible. You mentioned charity and philanthropy earlier on. The Chargers, as an organization, should be known as those blue colors, as you said, but also a way of doing business. And I guess a lot of that comes your dad and your granddad?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Obviously, being leaders in the community was very important to them. Having really deep business relationships with partners that go back many years, and just valuing the connections you have with people, I think is core to the Chargers. Having
understood how important the brand and family history and family legacy is, just a little bit on facility mobility. Everybody understands the long and turbulent and interesting history with Jack Murphy and Qualcomm and referendums and failures and successes. And was there, looking back, a tipping point and a definite meeting or a process you can talk to us about where the family got together and said, notwithstanding our best attempts, we can't make this long-term in San Diego, so we got to look up the road?
No, there really wasn't. And again, what it comes back to is, we are in the ultimate competitive industry, right? The NFL is incredibly competitive, and in order to compete at the highest level, you need to have a state-of-the-art facility and home and stadium. So we've been on a journey to find that for a long time, 15 years, and being up here now and seeing these renditions of Inglewood and the stadium, and I mean, it is just incredible, and there's no doubt we have found that, which is so exciting and really great for the franchise.
Decision to partner with whomever versus doing it alone is always a very difficult economic and emotional business decision as well. Not an easy decision when you made it, was it?
Again, all our decisions in regards to that were made with the best interest of the team and being able to, remain competitive and win Super Bowls.
Yeah, Rick, I don't think this is the path we really want to go down for this feature. We don't want to go into the politics of a stadium and the past. It's more just these guys' story. I think that's
I think, and I
ad
don't.
nauseum we've discussed it.
No, listen, I don't want to reinvent history here. All I want to do is to get to the point, and we're done with those questions. And I wanted to make sure that as we put the new process on the table, we talk about how positive some of the other NFL models were, like MetLife, and how the Giants and Jets coexist, and how you're looking to the future. So I'm sure you want to, as you said, looking at the renderings, it's really kind of important to look at all the good things that the facility can do in partnership with a somebody else who can make this facility bigger than the sum of its parts. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, from our perspective, it's just a really exciting time for the team to be on the verge of a new beginning. We have 2 years left in a temporary facility, and then, in fall 2020, to be a part of this new facility that's really going to raise the bar for all NFL venues and really sporting venues in the United States. When you talk about all the amenities, the unique design, the emphasis on technology, and especially the uniqueness of making it, for Los Angeles, a building that's going to have an indoor-outdoor feel. It's really going to have that wow factor.
And working with architects who are able to get input and visionary input from both organizations. Talk a little bit about that for a minute as you build the facility and as part of your legacy down the road.
Well, like I said before, we're really excited with the design. We're happy. It's a stadium that was designed specifically for two teams, and both teams will have dedicated home team locker rooms. There'll be 2 owner suites, and there's 70,000 square feet of digital board space, probably more than any other building in the world. And what that really means is that who's ever hosting an event there, whether it's the Chargers, whether it's the Rams, whether it's a concert, they're going to be able to activate all of that digital board space and really create a venue and tell their story. So in our case, it's going to light up blue and gold, feel very electric on game days for our fans, and that's incredibly exciting.
Yeah, and just to talk about, you asked about the partnership. We're excited about our partnership with the Rams. We think it's it's crafted in a way that's beneficial for both teams. There's a lot to be excited. We're very happy with our partnership, and the better they do, that's good for us. The better we do, that's good for them. We're contributing in the hundreds of millions of dollars towards this facility, and certainly have a lot of ownership and pride in the new stadium as well. So just on the whole, we're very excited about our partnership with the Rams.
One more stadium issue, all positive. As you move forward, every team in every sport learns from the successes and failures of other facilities. And you have the benefit of Minnesota, and now Atlanta and Dallas. Clearly, the state of the art. Your excitement that 2 years from now everybody's going to look at this facility that pushes the envelope in many, many ways. Can you just mention maybe one or two things you already did, but maybe one or two more that you think are going to set standards for others to follow?
Well, I mean, I think, first of all, Minnesota did a great job. Atlanta has done a great job. They designed stadiums that's very unique to their local regions, and I think we essentially followed their lead and designed a stadium that was very unique to our region. Indoor, outdoor. You're talking about a 70,000 seat stadium that's going to have a canopy roof covering it. So you have a translucent state-of-the-art technology that allows sunlight to go through, but protects you from the elements. It's never been done before on a building this size to have such a large canopy. But it's important for California lifestyle. People still want to be outdoors. Still, people want to feel take advantage of the modest climate, moderate climate. Excuse me. And like I said, first-in-class technology. It'll have an oval shape digital board that's double-sided, 4K technology. We believe it's 4 times sharper than any other digital board in the United States currently. It's just a lot to be excited about, and it's going to be a building built for cashless transactions and really the future. It's really a forward-looking stadium.
Awesome. Final set of questions. The sports business generally, you haven't been in the business for 50 years, but you know about it. What do you think are the biggest kind of differences since you've been in this business from your kind of career start to today? How do you see the business evolving from where it was when, I could say when your grandfather started, but that's too much pressure in one answer, but when you started and kind of where it's going?
Well, on the football side, this is John talking. I mean, it definitely has changed a lot. I can tell you that by, my early years going to the combine and what it looked like to just now when I go to the combine. I mean, it's amazing how different it is. TV cameras, television stations, camera crews, broadcast. I mean, it's unbelievable what our game has evolved to. But really, I think the core fundamental principles and how you build a team, there's been some evolutions with the salary cap, and that's changed some things, in regards to free agency versus a draft and how you build your team. But I think some of the main fundamentals to building a really successful football side in regards to, synergies between your coaching staff and your player personnel department and being on the same page and moving in the same direction and having a true mesh of everybody is fundamentally very important. There's been some changes. Certainly analytics is the word that everyone likes to use. I mean, we've been using analytics a very long time just by pure definition of what analytics is in regards to, using numbers to try to predict an outcome. But there's a lot more technologies in the analytics in regards to GPS tracking devices, which we use both in practice and in games, collecting that data. Certainly in the medical field, there's been a lot of advances. So I think navigating that area has been one of the biggest changes since I first started.
Hey, Drew, what about you off the field?
Yeah, thinking back on just my time with the team, starting with, working for the team when sort of pre-internet and how slow information traveled.
Oh, wait, time out. Are you that old?
When I was interning for the team, yes, it was pre-internet.
We both, I can remember, before internet was a big, I know this. When I first started working for the team, email didn't exist.
Oh, boy. Okay. Back in the leather helmet days. I didn't know there was such a time. Sorry.
It wasn't that long ago, though, really.
Yeah, I know. I understand.
So you start there, and you fast forward. And I remember the early days of your website and trying to deliver content. And you fast forward, and we have a the fastest growing department in our entire company has been our digital media department, and we have millions of followers on social media, and trying to push content out and expose people to Chargers football, give the existing customers, existing fans, the product they crave, and then trying to introduce new fans to the Chargers brand, strong brand, and bring them on board. So those are, that's some of the biggest changes that happen. But a lot of the challenges are similar. I think football is a game that translates really well to TV, and that's been definitely a strength of the entire league. But it creates somewhat of a micro challenge for all the clubs to remind people how great the experience is in person and getting to the games. And I think that's why we're on this course for building this state-of-the-art facility so that every seat is a good seat, so that people want to come to the games and have all the amenities and more so than what they would have at home.
Final question for both of you guys respectively. People will look at this as a good primer for getting into the business, and I know it's not as easy as it was back when I would write on papyrus instead of internet or use email. But give us your own kind of independent advice on people starting out and how they can successfully navigate the business, getting in and being successful.
Yeah, and something that I've seen firsthand on so many levels, and something that we preach. If you remain focused at the task at hand and doing your current job to the best of your ability, really that's the best way to get noticed. And the people that I've seen rise through our organization on the football side are the ones that have done very, very good jobs with the task at hand. And I think it's very easy, and it's a natural tendency where you want hungry, passionate people who have drive, who want to move up. But if you start worrying about what the next step is, and you start worrying about how do I get to the next step, I think that can distract you sometimes from doing the task at hand. And the people who have moved up here the fastest and the quickest and done the best job are the ones who focused first and foremost at the task at hand and doing their job to the best of their abilities.
I think that's great advice for people who are already with teams and already have that foot in the door. For people who are just, even looking or even thinking about it, I recommend talking to as many people in the industry as possible. A lot of times if you just pick up the phone and call the main directory of a sports organization, you'd be surprised who you can get a hold of. And most times sports executives, it's a very welcoming culture. People will give you honest feedback, and that's a great way to just, learn more about what the positions entail and make an educated choice about your career. That's my that's my advice.
I will give you my perception from my 50 years in the business that the Los Angeles Chargers are in great hands. John and A.G. Spanos, thank you very much. Rick Horrow, thanks again.